Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Akbar Ramadhani from English Education Department in 11 Maret University. So here I will tell you about what is meant by phobia, because of course most of people are familiar with the term of phobia, but maybe someone out there are still don't understand what is meant by the phobia. So here I want to tell you about the definition and symptom, the treatment, the cause, and the fact about the phobia itself. Okay, for the first, I will explain about phobias. At the first glance, the term phobia is interpreted the same as fear, but the fact is that phobia is an excessive fear response given by the human body. Normally, the human brain has a basic brain structure, and one of them is called amygdala. The amygdala function to regulate the response of what we feel, like fear of something. So here we can first conclude that fear is normal or human, because everyone must have their own fear or response. But it's different for them who has a phobia. For them, it may not be as simple as avoiding bees because they were afraid of bees, or avoiding hate because they were afraid of hate. Because people with phobias must feel a lot of symptoms that occur as a sign of body response or so excessive fear, and they perceive it serious thing. As I've explained, the person who has a phobia may have excessive fear and not rational that is caused by a certain thing. According to DSM-5, American Psychiatric Association or Journal of Psychology, stated that all phobias fall under the diagnosis specific phobia. So here then, in order to know that if we are diagnosed with a specific phobia, we must meet the following symptoms. First, show a marked fear or anxiety about a specific object or situation, as you can see on the posture, the side. For example, afraid of spider or arachnophobia, afraid of snake or ophidiophobia, afraid of height or acrophobia, afraid of narrow place or claustrophobia, and etc. The second symptoms is that the phobic object or situation almost always provokes immediate fear or anxiety. In here, the term phobia is defined as an extreme irrational fear of something, usually followed by a feeling of panic and a racing heart. The third symptom is the phobic object or situation is avoided or endured with intense fear or anxiety. It is so uncomfortable to be around, just like avoiding a hospital or a doctor because they're afraid of needle. So they go to the doctor or hospital only if they were forced to do. Okay, so those are some steps of the symptoms that are usually experienced by a person with a phobia. Then maybe some people ask if there is a way to overcome this phobia, or is there a way to cure the phobia? Actually, psychologists have stated there are several methods to overcome phobias, such as exposure therapy, cognitive behavior therapy, or you can also do a meditation to reduce the anxiety that arises in a person. Here I will explain one of the treatment methods, that is exposure therapy, because exposure therapy is considered very effective in overcoming phobias. This treatment doesn't force people to immediately face your fear, but the therapist will work together with the people to build your calming, soothing research, and the goal from exposure therapy is to change your response to phobia stimulus slowly. When one is exposed to their phobia, their typical reaction include having a higher heart rate, feeling scared, having a short of breath, feeling faint, among other symptoms. So that's why exposure therapy is carried out in a stage rather than directly facing the object they are afraid of. First, the doctor with the patient decide what phobia needs to be addressed. Then there are potentially many exposures in which one can work on to slowly desensitize themselves to the phobia. The example is like the identified phobia is a fear of bees. They then create an anxiety hierarchy with the different percentage of anxiety from the lower percent of anxiety meant no anxiety at all, and 100% of anxiety means most anxious you have ever felt in the hierarchy. The doctor and the patient set different level of exposures that are meant to produce a certain level of anxiety. A specific exposure is meant to produce 20% anxiety, another exposure is meant to produce 40% anxiety, and 60% anxiety, 18% anxiety, and until the 100% anxiety. For further understanding, we can see in the following anxiety hierarchy table by Dr. Ali Matu, New York City clinical psychologist beside. So going back to the example of having fear of bees, let's say for 20% you may looking at the cartoon of bee. Then in the 40% anxiety you can watch a bee documentary. Next, on the 16% anxiety you may be going to botanical garden, and for 18% anxiety you may standing near a beehive. Then for the final, that is 100% anxiety, you may play with a bee. So instead, the doctor and the patient take small steps. They engage in an exposure in which the anxiety is going to be at 20%, and we wait until anxiety subsides naturally. These steps can take up to an hour. Then one engages in that step enough times until the anxiety has significantly decreased. Then one engages in the next step, which would be engaging in exposure that's supposed to produce 40% anxiety. Then one repeats this process for every single step. So they do it for 60%, 80%, and even sometimes 100%. After engaging in all those steps, the phobia is going to be much more manageable. But however, it can always be come back. It's important to engage in exposure even after the phobia is more managed. This will prevent the phobia from reappearing. Okay, heading to the next point, that is, how did the phobia occur? Where does it come from? Based on the Psychology Journal, a person can experience phobia due to the genetic heredity factors such as being inherited from parents or predecessors, then bad experience that occurred when they were small or they were as a child, they can affect the response in their brain. And beside that, we often don't understand that the biological reason that show phobia symptoms, as happens sometimes when there is a chemical imbalance in the body and makes your face flushed. Then people or even you yourself think it's because you feel embarrassed, not because of there's a chemical imbalance in your body in response to something. So that's why many people are less aware of the existence of the phobia. To find out more the fact about phobia, we can see in the documentary from Kat Napiorska, The Life of Someone who has a social phobia. In her video, she tells that someone who has social phobia tend to avoid a conversation with the other people for fear of bad judgment. She also says that other people's opinion of him she just feel embarrassed to talk, and she will grow with it. But what people others say, not to the way Kat Napiorska feels. She tends to wait for an opportunity to show who she really is. She says that it's better for someone else to talk to her first or ask her to start a conversation. In the video, Kat Napiorska overcomes her anxiety by doing her hobby in art because she thinks it's fun and not related to the other people. So that's what I can say about phobia. I hope you guys can understand what is meant by phobia and what we should do to prevent and help someone with the phobia. Thank you, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.